UConn runs St. John's out of Hartford and proves why they are a legit national championship contender and absolutely a 1 seed. We'll talk about it. This is Locked On UConn.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday night on this post-game edition of Locked On UConn. I am Matt Schonvisky, a two-time graduate, 10-year credentialed media member and host of the only daily UConn sports podcast, Locked On UConn, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and thank you for making this your first listen each and every single day. On tonight's show, obviously recapping the 72-40 demolition of St. John's by your UConn Huskies. Tarris Reed, absolutely rejuvenated. We'll talk about that in the first segment. Then the crowd brought it. I was thinking halfway through this game, where does this crowd rank? It's top 5 in my mind. Top 5 for me, at least in person. We'll go through that list. We'll talk about the crowd tonight. It's been a topic of conversation. They more than delivered. And then championship level defense. You can't beat what UConn did tonight to St. John's on the defensive side of the floor. We'll talk about it because all of this leads to one thing, and that is national title contenders. No doubt in my mind. The depth, the defense, the rebounding, the rim protection. We talked about that in the pregame show. I know, apologies. The audio, my mic was muted on the pregame show. I'm sorry about that, but a lot of the things that I was asking for, Tarris Reed, post presence, defensive effort, rebounding. Check, check, check. Everything checked. Everything checked. Embrace the moment. Check. Embrace the crowd. Check. Let the crowd build your performance. Check, check, check. Everything I wanted to see heading into this game, UConn did. We'll talk about it. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Bear with me, guys. You could probably hear it. Just like anybody else that was at the game tonight. I'm dealing with my voice. So if my voice is in and out here, if I sound differently, it was an epic crowd today. We'll talk about that in the second segment, but bear with me. We contributed, more than contributed to the energy and the environment in that arena tonight. Absolutely spectacular showing. We'll talk about the fans in a sec, but 72-40, let's start there. Let's just go through some stats because there's some things that had transpired tonight that let's just start. 24 missed shots to end the game for St. John's. 24 missed shots in a row. You want to talk about UConn defense? How about holding St. John's to 20% from the field, 25% from three? 20% from the field. 24 straight misses to end the game. Spectacular. UConn shot 47% from the field versus St. John's is 20. UConn was only 7-25 from three, 28%. This game could have been worse. This could have been a lot worse. Hard to say when it's a 72-40 game. Huskies only shot 28%. The nation's top three-point shooting team shoots an average 39%. Shot 28% tonight. Still won by 32. Oh, my goodness. Out-rebounded St. John's 41-37. So this flipped, right? UConn was out-rebounded at MSG. UConn tonight, all over the glass. The effort. Flashback to MSG. Turnovers, 16 at MSG. 5 tonight, just 5. Silas Demery at MSG had 9 turnovers. 1 tonight. Wasn't even an impactful turnover. Offensive glass, UConn got 9. 16 for St. John's. So some work to do there if Dan Hurley's looking for anything. It's the 16 offensive rebound, and it's also Eric Robert fouling out in 7 minutes. But hey, you can't really complain about anything else in a 72-40 game where UConn held them to 20% from the field. Let's start with Tarris Reed. 20 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 6 blocks. We were talking pregame show, and I know, again, it was muted. You guys couldn't hear it. I did not want this to be a one-on-one. I had a segment on Tarris Reed. And I didn't really care about the one-on-one matchup with Ejiofor. Zuby Ejiofor could outscore Tarris Reed tonight. I wasn't going to care. What I cared about is Tarris Reed's effort on the glass, Tarris Reed's effort on the defensive side of the court, Tarris Reed's effort, and Tarris Reed's ability to protect the rim and be a low-post presence defensively. What'd you see tonight? 6 blocks. This guy Tarris Reed has absolutely transformed into the last 2 games, the player that we've been asking for. Again, his line, 20 points, 11 rebounds, 6 blocks, 3 assists, 2 steals. Was diving on the court. 30 minutes of play. Had 4 fouls. The center spot, again, got into a bit of foul trouble, but I mean, Reed, it really didn't impact his game. Briba, it did, obviously. Alex Caravan, 14 points on 6 of 13. Not as efficient tonight. Went 2 of 7 from 3, 5 rebounds. Again, we speak to it. 7 of 25 from 3. Huskies average 39%. Best in the nation. Braylon Mullins hit 3 threes tonight. 3 of 8 from 3. 9 points, including early. He had two threes back to back. He hit one. I think it made it 18-11 in the first half. We're going to talk about the crowd in a sec, but on the break, 18-11, into the corner, bangs a 3. The crowd went absolutely insane. This crowd was ready for the jump. I'm just excited to talk about the crowd just because it was such an epic night in Hartford. But let's keep going through the stats. Silas Emery, 7 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. 2 of 5 from the field. Only took 5 shots. Was aggressive when he needed to be. Got into the paint when he needed to be. And he did try to, near the end there, try to throw down again on another St. John's big, just like he did at Madison Square Garden. He drew the flagrant 1 foul as he did so because it was a headshot. And then Solo Ball, 11 points, 4 of 7 from the field, 2 of 5 and 3. He forced a couple bad shots there. Would have liked to have seen a little better from him. But listen, the Huskies are playing within their offense. They're not forcing things for the most part. There are a few times that Solo forced a 3, maybe just once tonight, forced a 3. Alex Caravan forced a 3. Braylon Mullins forced a 3. It was more of a heat check. After he banged a 3 in the second half, he came back a couple feet behind the 3-point line, and I think he missed everything. He hit the backboard. But listen, it's 72-40. We're trying to find things to look at, and there's not much. I also want to call out Malachi Smith. He at Madison Square Garden was completely overmatched, was not ready for that game. Only played 5 minutes that night. 14 minutes tonight. 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. Made an impact. 3-point play as well. He was an impactful player tonight. If you get some of that energy and some of that ability and some of that going forward off the bench from him. Ooh. Man, this team, I'll tell you. National championship contenders. National championship contenders. I really haven't wavered. The only time I wavered was after that Creighton game. And I said, ooh, maybe I'm a little wrong. But right back to it. Back to back. Villanova, St. John's. Dominant performances. This isn't even, they're coming back and they're fighting, scratching and clawing. No. This was a Dan Hurley reset film study, shut off from the media, going to Philadelphia, taking care of business, really hitting home with the players that needed to step up. Tarris Reed. The bench. Efforts on rebounding, defense, and protecting the rim. And Dan Hurley got his team to respond. Got his key players to respond to a point where it's 72-40 over a top 15 team, forcing them to miss their last 24 shots from the field. (41-26) at the half, 31-14 second half, 32-point win. What a game. What a game. And this can just propel them and be a launching point. Just like Villanova was a launching point to tonight. Tonight can be a launching point to rest of the season, Big East tournament, NCAA tournament. Huskies are a 1 seed after tonight, in my mind. I don't see any other way. Let's see how things go here as UConn closes the season. But yeah, after tonight, right now, 1 seed. No doubt. I don't care much about seeding as I do placement, their bracket, who else are they with. But tonight, everything you wanted. On the other side of the break, there's been a lot of talk about our crowds, our home crowds. Hartford's been consistently good this season. I wouldn't say great. At times it's been great, not consistently great. It's been a good crowd all season. Tonight was epic. Epically loud, absolute bedlam. We'll talk about that after the break. Instead of hold on. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can your pick cash, but it could also send you to the NBA Finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Again, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's episode is also brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. Live in Connecticut, work in a different state, they have you covered. They can cover it all. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If the TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Again, for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local tax expert for just $150. Just file by February 28th. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Back in on Locked On UConn post-game edition after the 72-40 win over St. John's, and we've got to talk about tonight's crowd. Right? Absolutely epic performance by a fan base that got called out earlier this season. And boy, did you guys deliver from the opening tip from pregame. What a performance. What an environment. To be a player to play in an environment like that, if you're a recruit looking at that, this is a place where, obviously, UConn cares about their athletics. Top to bottom. I don't care what sport it is. But tonight, men's basketball, obviously, the environment tonight was off the charts. Off the charts. I don't know how many times the run right off the bat. I don't know how many times the UConn chant, Big Red was up. 3, 4, 5 times in that first half. Spectacular. We were up in 214. I had my 4-year-old son there sitting with my dad as well. What a game to be at with family. And my son's getting to the point where he's starting to understand basketball a bit. Has been there all season for the most part. We've got season tickets, of course. And he was absolutely into that game, start to finish in that first half. And the environment and just seeing him soak it in, seeing everyone around us just soak in the experience that tonight's game was. I put out on social media at UconnSN, obviously you can see it here at UconnSN, my Twitter handle. To me, tonight's environment, rival, top 5 Hartford environment ever. I was just going through it quickly, the environments that rivaled tonight. You had the 1-2 matchup with Pitt back when DeJuan Blair was with the Panthers. You've got the win late over Villanova, UConn's official return to the Big East. You've got Kansas in the mid-90s when UConn got off to that epic start. The Georgetown-Syracuse, a rival. UConn's a rival under Jim Calhoun, a young Jim Calhoun taking on Georgetown and Syracuse and taking them down. And then maybe Syracuse in 2013 when UConn was ineligible for the Big East tournament and Kevin Ollie took down Syracuse. That was an epic night as well. But tonight, I mean, you had a top 15 team in here 3 weeks ago. St. John's, as Dan Hurley says, punked UConn down at MSG. And this crowd was ready. First place battle on the line. And this crowd was ready from the jump. You guys brought it. So let's put to rest that UConn's crowds don't show up, because they absolutely do. And for those big environments, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than the environment that we saw tonight. And it spurred on this team to a 72-40 win. And when UConn gets cooking, when UConn gets rolling and gets out on some runs, you saw what that does to the crowd. UConn delivered, the crowd delivered. The crowd delivered early to carry the team. The team took it from there. And you saw exactly what transpired tonight. What an environment. What a night. What a game. And what this is going to do, I talked about it at the end of the first segment, what this is going to do as the Huskies go forward. What it does then for them from a perception standpoint nationally. I mean, you look at what just transpired. Held St. John's, a top 15 team, to 20% from the field. 40 points. They held them to 40. That might be, we got to validate this, but I heard something that this might be the lowest amount of points since 1950 UConn's allowed in a game. I heard top 4 all time in UConn basketball history, holding a team to 40 points. Special night. Absolute special night. And you, the fans, you, the viewers, you, the listeners, absolutely played a role. Absolutely played a role. That place was a madhouse. Bedlam. Bedlam. When Braylon Mullins drilled that 3, my gosh. Epic. What led to that? Yes, you guys brought it. Huskies also brought it on the defensive side of the floor. We'll talk about that on the other side.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. South Carolina rolled past Ole Miss 85-48 to clinch a share of the SEC regular season title and lock down the number 1 seed in the conference tournament. The Gamecocks extended their win streak over Ole Miss to 21 straight. UCLA dominated Wisconsin 80-60 to secure its first outright Big Ten regular season championship in program history. The Bruins improved to 27-1 overall and remain unbeaten in conference play. And number 12 TCU stormed back from a 13-point fourth quarter deficit to beat Iowa State 80-73. The Horned Frogs now sit alone atop the Big 12 standings and are 1 win away from clinching another regular season conference crown. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Just a reminder, you can get Locked On UConn ad-free with the Everydayer Club, plus members-only Discord access. Join at lockedonucon.supercast.com. Again, lockedonucon.supercast.com. So back in here on this final segment of the postgame show after UConn's epic 72-40 win over St. John's, championship-level defense. That's the difference. The difference. We talked about it in the first segment, the stats. 20% from the field. 11 of 56 from the field. St. John's made 11 shots. 11 shots. 13 of their points came from the free throw line. Outside of free throws, 27 points. 20% from the field. UConn shut them down. Here's another stat we didn't talk about. We should have talked about this in the first segment. St. John's didn't get a steal. Talk about handling the pressure, handling the press. UConn did that with flying colors. But tonight, all about defense. All about defense. I feel like UConn was switching a lot more on the perimeter. Able to close out on shooters, able to stay with shooters, and did not allow any open looks on the perimeter. It was just a performance that when are we going to see that again? I mentioned 40 points. I think this might be the first time since 1950 UConn has held an opponent to 40. Might just be it's the fourth lowest score they've held an opponent to all time. And they did it on the defensive end. We talked about, again, the pregame show was, you couldn't hear me. My mic was muted. My apologies. But we talked about defense being a mentality, being an effort thing, being a I want to have it more than you. And tonight, that's exactly what you saw. That's exactly what you saw. Start to finish. Start to finish. Was there maybe a 2-minute stretch where St. John's got back into it, cut that first half lead down to 14? Yes. But start to finish, 20% from the field. 11 of 56 from the field. 5 of 20 from 3 they allowed. Out-rebounded St. John's, 41-37. Protected the rim, got 9 blocks. Forced 6 steals. Across the board. Team defense. And then Tarris Reed. Man. What a performance by him. I'm not even looking on the offensive side of the floor. Got 11 boards. No one on St. John's had more than 5. Reed had 11. 6 blocks. We've been wondering, where's the rim protection? Where's the rim protection? UConn keeps honoring Hashim Thabit, Emeka Okafor. Where's the rim protection on this team? Well, Tarris Reed's your guy. If he can deliver this type of rim protection to add on to what Silas Demery has done for this overall team defense in the effort, even solo ball put in. And Jaden Ross, 17 minutes, 14 minutes from Malachi Smith, getting 2 steals off the bench. Who's stopping this team? Let's think about this for real. Who's stopping this team? If Reed plays like this, who's stopping this team? Because my concern, even after Villanova, I was concerned about, hey, that matchup with Duke, they down on the low post, protecting the paint, protecting the rim. But if you get this type of Tarris Reed performance on the defensive end of the floor, no one's sticking with UConn. Because, and then this switches to offensively, UConn is so deep. So deep. 20 from Reed, 14 from Caravan, 11 from Ball, 7 from Demery, 9 from Mullins. Spreading it around. Playing within the offense, taking what the defense gives you. Caravan talked about this postgame. Taking what the defense gives you. Not forcing things. Running the offense because you have Dan Hurley drawing up offensive sets. And you do this against a team that knows you well inside and out. We talked post-game against Creighton. Why Creighton such a difficult matchup for UConn? Well, they've played them over and over and over and over. Why is the Big East tougher for UConn than out of conference? Even when you're going to Kansas and playing Illinois, playing Florida, playing Texas, playing BYU. Why is it harder in conference? Well, the familiarity. And yet tonight, UConn rolls. UConn rolls, and it started on the defensive end. Started with the energy from the crowd, carried over to the defense, carried over to the effort, the mentality, and again, the protect your court. UConn enters any game with that mindset, they're unbeatable. No ifs, ands, or buts in my mind. 26-3, 16-2 in the Big East. This reminds me of 23. Telling you. Where they had that little lull, they had that stretch, they had that hot start. They rolled out in Portland. Then they had that January setback, and then they recovered, and it was off to the national championship. I'm feeling the same. I'm getting the same vibes. You have that stretch. We talked about this. As long as you're going like this, you're going to have ups and downs. Just like it's going to go up and down. You're going to have some pullbacks. But as long as you're peaking at the right time, and is it harder to peak than what they just did? 72-40? It started with the defensive effort. Tarris Reed in this team. Spectacular effort defensively. So listen, what else can you say? 72-40, UConn improves to 16-2 Big East. Currently half a game up on St. John's in the conference. St. John's right now will own the tiebreaker if they win another game. But we'll see how all this plays out. UConn returns to action on the 28th, this Saturday, St. John's senior night at Gamble, senior day at Gamble. And then they have a week off to get healthy, and they go to Marquette. The final game of the regular season on March 7th. So that's what you got here. That's going to do it for the post-game show. As we move forward, hey, I was at the football event prior at People's Bank Arena. Coach Candle, Campanelli, Manilak all spoke to the fan base. We'll summarize that on a show tomorrow. Also, I'm going to be joining the Locked On College Basketball National Show a little later to just talk about, once again, this game against St. John's. I'll post that here as well, so you'll see that. And then the women are back in action tomorrow. We'll try to preview that as well. So thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On UConn. UConn dominating 72-40. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On UConn on social media so you get all the latest episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On UConn ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonyuconn.supercast.com to join the club. Again, lockedonyuconn.supercast.com to join the club. Again, UConn rolls over St. John's 72-40. Huskies are back. 1 seed in sight. National championship is on the table. We'll talk later this week. That's it for tonight. See ya.